Good morning and welcome back to the NOFO Live Show, where I, Sunita, along with my two co-hosts, Tracy from Miss Tracy Kessler and Kelly from NOFO Endless Summer, we hop on every Friday to chat about everything North Fork. And speaking of everything North Fork, I don't know where this, I want to call it the rogue rain came from. I have no idea. It wasn't scheduled. It's just here. It's just creating this weird waking up time for Monday morning because hopefully it's just a passing through shower, but it's certainly not creating the weekend vibes that I was hoping for this morning. I feel like we are in the thick of summer. So many weekend activities going on. I just went to the family fun event that Brick Cove Marina hosts. I think they have a few during the season. They probably have a couple more left. It was so much fun. It's just easy, families to be able to gather. There was kite flying. There was oyster painting, like painting of the oyster shells. There was a really fun band, super young, all young musicians, very talented. They were touring the city, or touring, I guess, the area. And I think the first stop was the North Fork, and they were so fun. I just loved it. It was a great event, great turnout. There were donuts. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning. I don't want to interrupt you. I want to hear your review of this evening.
It was so easy, so laid back, so fun. I just enjoyed myself, just to see families spread out on picnic blankets and kids running around. I just loved it. I mean, I think a great job is being done there, and I hope they continue to do more of them,
Yes. Well, we have 3 more coming up.
Oh, so awesome.
One on Saturday, not this Saturday. Wait. What day is it? The 13th. Not this Saturday, the next Saturday. The 13th, the 21st, and September 3rd. So I hope everyone will come. I hope you'll come back.
I don't want to hear the word September. I'm so into, summer. As you can see, I've come back with like a serious tan. It's actually flying away now. I feel like I just came back, but we were gone the week before. Wait, I don't see Kelly's request. Oh, I do see it. Okay, sorry, Kelly. It didn't show up, but now that you messaged, I went to go see it. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, how
are you?
I was saying this rain is making it seem, I don't even know what day it is, what time it is. I was not expecting to wake up to this rain. Was anybody else?
No, I wasn't expecting the rain. But I have to say, last night I went to that Best of the North Forker event.
Oh, cool.
And I had my hair done and I had some makeup on. So I woke up late and I still have everything from last night going on. So that works out perfect.
Hey,
I have sheet marks because I also woke up late and I have the indentation of the sheets on my face.
Christy shoved a bottle. What's wrong with you guys?
No, my hair is still wet. I just ran out of the shower. I was like, oh my God.
I'm hosting today's show standing over the coffee maker waiting for it to finish.
Oh my God,
I haven't even had my coffee yet, so we'll see how this goes.
If anybody has any doubts that the show is live,
yeah,
here's literally a proof.
Yes.
But I mean, I know we've talked about this off camera, Kelly and Tracy, that's kind of what we love about it. It's just what it is, it's partly our real lives and partly the real interaction with the guest that comes on in their lives. And I don't think we want to change anything about it. So good morning.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning, North Fork. This is us. You know what I think is also, I feel like the summer is really starting to catch up with me at this point. Do you guys feel like you've been go, 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 go?
Yes.
And now it's time to just coast and beach and pool for the rest of the summer.
And slow it down.
Right. Yeah. Poor Tracy. This is Tracy's high season. Yeah. So I know she's been busy.
Yes, but I feel like June, July, I loved it, but it feels like it's gone in a blink, and now I want August to kind of go a little bit slower.
Yeah.
Just enjoying the simple pleasure. So do you guys have any, I know we usually talk about this the weekend, but do you have anything coming up for the weekend that you plan to do?
So tomorrow is my grandmother's 93rd birthday. So we're going to Queens for that. Yeah. So it's going to be fun. But I want to try and I try and squeeze in all the things. So I saw that Greenport skate park thing is it starts at 10 a.m. So I'm like, oh, maybe I could like get there at 10 a.m., leave at 11:30, drive straight to Queens. So let's see if that happens.
It does sound really good. It does sound really good. As you know,
I'm trying to
I have
go
family
too.
coming, so I don't know that I'll be able
like
to go, but it does sound good.
Yeah. It's like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. I mean, not 10, 8 p.m. So it's
Oh.
a long day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think it's a sort of a fundraiser too, right? They are raising funds to repair, whatever the park.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
What
about you,
guys?
Tracy? Do you have a fun-filled weekend with Tilly planned?
Well, we live in a little community in Jamesport. We have our Jamesport community picnic, and guess who's planning it? So.
Oh my gosh!
Yes.
Like you don't have enough going on.
I know. So, but it's a really fun time. We have games. We have live music. The ice cream man comes. It's we have a good time. So yeah, that's on Saturday.
Okay, enough about us. Let's hear all about our guests because that's
Hi, Christy.
Hi. Thank you all so much for having me here. I'm so excited to connect with all of you and just share a little bit about my process. I know that Kelly has been sharing my paints and my artwork, and I would just I know it's a little unique, and people are like, wait, what do you do? I'm like, I make paint. And they're like, but what, you're an artist? But wait, what? I'm like, no, I actually make paint by hand and I sell it to people who want to use it. I also use it for myself to create my own artwork. So I've been an artist for over 10 years professionally. And during the pandemic, I had to work in a small office with my husband. And prior to that, I had been using all sorts of chemicals and fumes to create resin work and really intense large scale work. And so I had to kind of think small and think of how I couldn't fumigate him out of the same room as me. And there was no time frame on how long this would last. And we still share the same office. So I started doing some research and seeing what I could, do to work a little bit more naturally. And I stumbled upon the history of paint making. And so I am a little bit of a nerd and I love to research. And so I spent a year and a half researching this process. And this is how paint used to be made back, all these classical painters, they would actually have someone called a paint maker who would make their paints ahead of time for them. And so I thought that was so interesting. I've always loved color and I've tried to infuse that in every art project that I do. And so I just spent time, playing with color and playing with paint. And while I was doing that, I had these oyster shells on my desk from a birthday celebration that I had where they accidentally tripled my order of oysters. And so I was like,
That's a good problem to have.
It was a very good problem to have. And so I was like, I can't let these beautiful shells go to waste. My dad growing up was clamor. So I've been surrounded by shells on the South Shore of Long Island. And so I just, kind of looked at them, played with them, and then realized these things make the perfect vessel for paints to go into, and there's no plastic used. And so I used my first shells that I had consumed the oysters of and put, some different colors and things into them, and they come in all shapes and sizes. And so I started to really dive down the oyster route. And if I feel like most of you here know a little bit about oysters just because of the North Fork and where we live, but it's a rabbit hole that you can really go into. And so I was like, oh, this is so cool. So I tried to kind of merge that conservation work that oyster farming has with my own art practice. And so I've been making these paints and people started to ask, can I purchase them? And so I couldn't consume that many oysters, let's be real, as much as I wish I could. I was like, I'm going to be eating a lot of oysters in order to fulfill orders. So I reached out to a few restaurants, and I'm really happy to announce that starting this month, the Halyard in Greenport is going to become my new shell recycling partner. So I will be using shells that are consumed on the North Fork for my paints that I primarily sell on the North Fork and Long Island. And it's really, really cool. So I take these really nasty shells after you eat them. They go back into the restaurant, and they would go into the trash and would wind up in our local landfills. And so instead of them winding up there, I'm the oyster girl. I take the oyster buckets home and I sanitize them, obviously, and then set them all out to dry and turn them into kits. And so, Kelly, this is the one that you featured on your page. This was my summer subscriptions. And so what started to happen is I had all of these colors and all these ideas, but I couldn't keep them in stock fast enough for people. So I decided it's a very good problem to have.
First problem you had is too many oysters. That's a good problem. Second problem, not being able to keep your product in stock. Both good problems.
Both good problems. And so I was like, let's create a subscription. So each season I curate a special color palette based on that season that's inspiring me. And I write up a PDF and share like why I chose these colors, how you can use these colors. And I put them in these kits like this, which makes it really easy for plein air painting or painting at the beach, because you could just throw this in your beach bag and use salt water that you'd find at the beach and start to create with art. And so it's been a really fun process.
I just want to interrupt. I'm like in awe
of
how you began.
I
when
know.
You started, and the whole thought process, because frankly, I'm so glad that you're here explaining what you do, because when you see visuals, you know, we just 30-second attention span, right? So we see the oyster, we see the color. I was one of those people early on guilty of assuming that you're coloring the oysters, which, by the way, one of the things they had at Brick Cove, right? They had a table of oysters, shells, and the kids were painting and coloring. So, but I love how you're explaining that it is the vessel to carry the paint. And I especially love when they really say, you know, necessity is the mother of invention. You didn't want toxic chemicals around you and your family and your husband, so you spent all this time and energy creating. I love it. I love the whole process. I love where you are, and deep diving into oysters. I mean, I'm now an oyster farmer. If you ever run out of oysters and you need another partner, I'm sure they too.
I'm always looking. And if they come pre-cleaned, I like them even better. But I also do that as well. And over 2021, I had several people who were either they had parties and their families consumed oysters and they saved them for me and cleaned them and dumped them off at my home. And it was just really cool to see the community engaging too. Like they loved this idea, and it's another way to connect locally with what's in season. And so yes, color, but also the North Fork is so much about like intentionality of what's in season, whether it's food or wine or now paint materials. And so that was a really cool thing. And then to just top it off one step further, I was like, okay, I love this model, but how can we make it just dial it up a little bit? So for every color oyster paint that I sell, I also plant one in its place. So last year we planted 500 oysters, and this year we're on track to definitely do more than that. And so I'm like, keep watching the numbers climb. And so it's another way that I'm like, if you invest in me as an artist, I'm taking care in my practice to make sure that I'm reducing waste, but I'm also taking care of what's to come when I might not even be here, because oysters last a while and they clean our habitat. So it's just another climate change way that I can be like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do in my small little space. And the ripple effects have been really cool.
I love it.
That's amazing. I feel like that right there embodies the North Fork, like that, the mentality that we all have. And maybe some of us are struggling to figure out how to do that. And you did that. And that's just so amazing. And, you know, another thing I love about the North Fork, I don't know if you know this, Christine, but you and I have been emailing for the last month. Because I was like,
I did email you
on the show, and I was like, wait a minute, I've been talking to her, like, but you know, this is why I love the North Fork. It's like, you know, 6 degrees of everybody.
I was gonna say 6 degrees.
The North Fork has 3 degrees, not 6.
The North Fork is definitely more like 3.
And is that breathed behind you?
So this is life right
Life.
here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm obsessed with your your paintings, your prints, and I am absolutely buying one for my bedroom. I just have to figure out what size. Like, I absolutely love them. Will you tell us how you do that?
Yeah. So I'm also, because I don't know if you know this, but today is National Oyster Day.
Oh,
I was like, what? I woke up today and I was like, oh my gosh, the signs have aligned.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna today on my website, I just have to make it live, but I'm gonna do, if you use the promo Oyster on my website, you'll get 15% off all my fine art prints today only, just as a way that we can like plant more oysters.
Spread the word.
Yes.
So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
So
tell us a little bit more about your prints and how you make them and what it is.
So this one is an 18 by 24 inch, just so that you can see size wise. This one is an 8 by 10. These seem to be like the easiest gift sizes, and they're easy to find frames. You can find them kind of anywhere. But basically, making paint takes me over an hour to mix one color at a time. Wow. So it is a very slow process. And so I use, they're different colored powders that are made out of natural materials that have been ground up into like really, really fine dust. So they're like colorful dust. And then I use this glass tool. It's called a muller. And it's what I use to grind the paint on a marble slab. So there's a few things that you have to add ingredient wise, but it's local honey. So another local ingredient. So I've been currently using Sag Harbor's honey. Then it is clove oil, it's vegetable glycerin, distilled water, and tree sap. It happens to be something that you could purchase from this place that is helping me create these materials. They have a range of natural earth paint options to purchase. And so that is called a binder. You have to make that up ahead of time. And you take those two things, the binder and the color, and you put them together and you slowly mix them with this. And so it's like a circular motion. If you follow me on Instagram after this, you'll look at my reels and you'll see it from usually my view down, where I'm just like grinding away. So like my arms are getting really strong. I make a lot of paint. And so I do this for like over an hour. So it becomes a really meditative process for me. I kind of get lost in the movement, and I'm thinking about what kind of artwork I'm going to create, or who's going to wind up painting with these things, how many oysters are going to be planted from it. It's kind of like that part I spend a lot of time intentionally putting my energy into the paint and into this process. And at the end of it, it's based on the pressure in my hand that I pull this up off the marble slab, and the paint is in between. So it almost creates like a suction, and you'll see it'll be like, and the pattern is on here that I wind up stamping onto paper. And then I'll go in with a fine detail paintbrush and kind of add wherever I'm like, oh, I need to add a little bit more paint here. Or sometimes I'm just like, it is perfect. This one I didn't touch. It just came off the page. And I was like, whoa. So I have them in all different colors. This one's black. Everyone is completely different than the other.
That's amazing.
This one's brown, as you can see.
I've seen them lined up. I don't know who has this. Maybe it's in your home, but I've seen like 3 of your prints lined up in like 3 frames, and they just look so beautiful. So
thank you.
There's some kind of, again, like this calming presence.
Well, to me, I see like a jellyfish and coral, and so I feel like I'm looking at underwater, which is my favorite place to be. So it's like perfect. So Arnie Papery sells my artwork, and they have some up in their shop. And then for the month of August and September, I actually have a solo exhibition in Bellport, which I know is a little further, but it is this in a different frame that's large, and multiple pieces next to it that I've been posting, as well as I have 4 originals
that I'm selling there of that work. So there's an artist reception on August 18th from 5:30 to 7, and you can come meet me and talk to me about my work and see it up on view. It'll be available for the full 2 months, but if you want to interact with me and my art at the same time and place, I'll be there.
So now, Christy, this is not your original, like, you didn't start out creating like this. This is a pandemic born style for you, which this is a current theme with a lot of our guests and us, and that something kind of beautiful was born out of the pandemic. So tell us more about like that whole process.
So for like a very long time, I was actually a professional wedding calligrapher and did a lot of North Fork weddings. And I would do large scale signage on mirrors, and I would write on driftwood and shells. And I was always trying to get the shell and driftwood orders. I'd be like, I really like beach stuff. And so I did that for a while. And in 2018, I closed down my calligraphy studio and just put a pause on it. I was having a lot of health issues, and I was just really stressed. The job was not aligned with how I live my personal life. And I was just like, it was really successful, but it was too much for me to handle. And at the same time, my husband was transitioning work-wise and got an opportunity to work out in California. So we actually moved to California right before the pandemic, moved my everything. And the pandemic hit. We had no friends, like no family out there. And then the wildfires hit in August of 2020. And so we were thankfully in an area where our direct home was not affected, but the air quality was so severe that we could not leave our apartment. And it was the most life-changing moment for me, where I was like, I've heard about climate change, I care about the ocean, I care about the environment, but being in that experience completely shifted how I view my own interaction with the world. And so we decided and made the hard choice that we're like, you know what, Long Island is home. And so we were like, oh darn, we have to go back. But we were like, he's able to work remotely, we need to be where our family and our network and our support is. And so we came back, and during that process is where I was researching all of this. And finally, when we like had a place to where I could actually make paint, I just straight up started and didn't go back to the way I used to paint. And so I was always working in, you know, acrylics and watercolor, but I made a mission. I was like, everything that I will paint with from here on out will be with paint that I have created myself. And so I am managing kind of the supply of that. I can work within the same color palettes, which I like to do, so I can curate it to my own needs, and it's going to be more intentional and smaller scale. And so it really became a way that I was able to process all that climate grief, and also with the oysters be like, all right, I'm not going to just sit with this and not do anything. I'm actually going to take action too. And so this is my way of being like, this is my ethos in my art. I want to have stuff that is beautiful, that you want to keep on your walls and love, but also have it impact your actual life too.
We do love it. Yeah. So Christy, before, we only have until 9:30, and of course we want to ask you the questions about the North Fork, but
yes,
you do a lot of workshops on the North Fork too, in addition to your paint subscriptions and the work that people can purchase that you've done. You do workshops often with Melissa Jane Hyatt. Do you ever do any? Tell us about the workshops that you do. You love a good workshop.
I love workshops. So right now we're kind of like putting a pause on summer just because everything is kind of exploded, as we were talking about in the beginning. But in the fall, my workshop schedule will pick up. And Melissa and I have been friends for years. She knew me when I was a calligrapher. And so she's a watercolor artist, and originally was like, let me try to paint with your paints. And then we were like, let's just teach together. So we've taught at Love Lane. We've taught at Suru Wines, and we love teaching there. So we get some wine, we get to play with watercolors, and it's just been a really fun way for more people to interact with these handmade paints and have a night out where they get to create something. And Melissa's such a great teacher, and so we kind of like tag team it. I make paint live for you to see, and then you paint with the paints.
Oh,
and
wow.
she walks you
fun.
through it. So yeah, so you get to see like
You know
a
what
little
we're doing in the
demo.
fall, girls. Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, so
we need to
definitely
have the first on the invite list.
Yeah,
No
I will
full
send it to you.
Making paint. Yes, I want to turn at that glass muddler. Just saying.
Everyone's like, oh, could I do that? So maybe in the future I'll do like a paint making workshop. But
Yeah.
that would be fun.
Yeah.
yeah, really cool.
All right, so
And
let's
then-
kick it off with our
Yeah.
North Fork questions. If you were going to invite the three of us to lunch or dinner, where would you take us?
So I've been loving the Shoals. I love how they have like their food truck, and it's just like wherever you want to sit, you kind of hang, you can stay as long as you want, you drink what you want. I love that. And then if it's like a fancier time, either the Halyard or Duria's in Orient. I love that restaurant.
Well, Shoals is also the home of Little Ram Oysters, so I guess
It's you know,
calling you everywhere you go.
I go where the oysters are. Let's be real.
I love that. I go where the oysters are. So now, Christy, are you more of a wine or a beer fan? And where would you go if you're going to a vineyard or a brewery?
So I'm gluten free, so I'm a wine fan.
Yes.
And I love a good rosé. So I love Croteau, I love Quarry Creek, and I love Suru wines too. It's just a really quaint place to be.
Mm-hmm.
They're a lovely family too. We went to an event, the three of us, and they met the owners, and they're just a wonderful family.
They're so great. Yeah, and the knowledge that they have and the history of what they've done on the North Fork too, and how sustainable they've chosen to be, it just really resonates.
Okay, so other than hitting up all the oyster farm stands, farm stands that you frequent or enjoy?
I love Sang Lee. I actually have a CSA membership, so I've been like eating their vegetables and cooking with things I've never cooked with before this year. So I love going there, and their grounds are just so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. They love their little shop too.
Yeah,
they peruse their baskets of vegetables all day.
Yeah. I'm like, all of it. Let's go.
So my first entree into knowing Christy was for Christmas. I purchased myself a gift, which was Christy was making these really beautiful, in her style, circular sun catchers, I guess you would call them. And then they were attached to like a macrame cord, and I just love them. So I bought myself one for Christmas. So now the one that I bought, I think, was inspired by a sunset, right?
Yes.
It's like the pink and then the blue with the water. So now what's your go-to sunset or sunrise place?
So I feel like also the same places where I would go to eat. I was like, the Halyard is great for sunset. Like it
really is.
That spot is unreal. So
Perfect.
I love looking at the sound.
Well, it's been such a joy to get to know you. Even though we have been talking, I learned so much about what you do and how you do it. And I love the term that you use, climate grief. I've never heard that. And such a perfect term for, I know how I feel, and I know how we all feel. So thank you for sharing all of that with us. And just before we wrap up, tell us why you love being a part of the North Fork community.
I just love the intentionality and connection that grows when we celebrate what's local and in season. And I feel like it's such a magical place that I'm so grateful to have access to. And so it's just, when you're there, you're like, oh, I'm not, on Long Island, I'm on the North Fork. It like kind of just takes you to a different place. And I just love how a small world it is. Like clearly we've all been kind of connected in one way or another. Or know people of the same people. So I love that like small knit community.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for coming on. I love your passion for what you do, and it also comes through how much more aligned you are with how you want to lead your life, how you found something that is your job that and that's rare, and so many people are trying to find that. So I'm glad
it's totally possible.
Before we really go, I have a really quick question about, I love those kits you're talking about, and people grab a bottle of wine, a picnic, now you grab arts and crafts to take to your beach time out. Does it come with also the material that you would be painting on? Because I know you said you could use the salt water. So what is in the kit? Is it the paint and what else?
Yeah, so I sell them in a few different ways. I sell them in my subscriptions where you can kind of build your own whatever based to your needs, but it's usually the 3 paints, a small paintbrush and 5 sheets of paper. I also have watercolor design pages that you can purchase as well. That's like a seascape. So if you've never painted before, it's kind of intimidating to look at a blank page, but it has everything that you need in it except for water. And then you can use the plastic lid as your mixing palette too. So everything's all in one. So you can mix the colors together and create your own new ones, or you can use them straight from the shelves.
And the water,
I'm glad that you brought up the
salt water from the beach, so it's really
right, exactly.
It's all there. Yep. I'm glad you brought up the kits because I didn't even get to tell you all that for Christy's summer subscription, she created a NOFO Endless Summer blue that could be added onto your order that we actually got to play with when Riley and I got our kit. So that was awesome. And I didn't even get to say like a proper thank you to you because it was so cool.
It was so fun.
So she took the color of my logo and created a paint with that color.
Awesome.
So cool. Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
so great. Well, thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you all next Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.